Oh dear. By the way, I've got to let the audience know I haven't seen that intro until right now, and it's very amusing. Let me know what you think of it in the chat. I haven't seen that before, and I'm really pleased. Thanks to the work of Ben and JG with organizing that. Um, Anyway, I guess let's go straight in for it. We are here to talk about the report, which obviously is, thank you for the comments, by the way. We're obviously here to talk about today at the Australian Open, day one. I'm excited to be here after 12 days of non-tennis action in many respects. It's great to get back to the courts and the courts of the Rod Laver Arena and elsewhere in Melbourne. The main thing, of course, I guess for many of us to talk about, at least to begin with, is the return of Rafa Nadal to Grand Slam tennis. He obviously won in straight sets today. Tell me what you think about that in the chat. Thanks for being here, of course. It's a nice little image there of him in his purple outfit. Also, let me know what you think of his outfit, by the way. But let's talk about the tennis. So, how was he today? Well, he won in straight sets. It's kind of looking a little bit like Rafa Nadal in Melbourne. We've seen this before, particularly in 2020 and 2021, where he sort of steamrollers through the first week and then he grinds to a halt. Do you guys think the same, or do you think it'll be different this year? Let's talk about the movement. Let's talk about the injury. Let's talk about the foot in particular. He did say a couple of things, one in his press conference in the lead up, and then again on court, and then again in the post-match press conference. He actually highlighted something about his foot that I think many of us weren't aware of. We thought it sort of flared up in Roland Garros at the French Open, but that doesn't seem to be the case. He said he started feeling it in a particular way post-lockdown. So let's say summer of 2020, as we obviously got the clay court very mini swing that we had in Rome and then Roland Garros. And I did notice something during that Roland Garros of 2020, the one obviously he won. And he did mention as well in his press conference that in the cold temperatures, and that was a cold French Open, he managed to get over it. Of course, he went all the way to winning that tournament, but he did change his shoes midway through. Which I thought was an interesting thing. He had a particular outfit and he had his shoes that were matching it. But for some reason, at the end of his second round win in that particular run, he then changed to some black shoes that he obviously felt more comfortable in. I thought that was kind of peculiar at the time. But after this comment that he made, in particular to Jim Courier, that actually he's been feeling it for 18 months. Is this the first time we've had a fully fit Rafa Nadal in 2 years? Because obviously he had his back issues as well going into the last slam. Let me know what you think in the chat. Regarding Rafa today, and did he look good? Well, he had his little purple numbers I've already touched on. I think he looked pretty good. There was quite a few moments where he was having to dash around the court, and it was a nice workout. Many of you will say that he's got tougher assignments to come, but I think the best thing actually is the serve. The serve is now looking a little bit back to where it was, say, at the end of 2019. He got 7 aces today. I looked at his stats for a year ago, where he had 5 aces in his first round. So he's already a couple ahead on that count. And I think it's also a progression of what we saw before, both even in Abu Dhabi and then also in Melbourne in that pre-tournament Australian Open, where I think his serve has been getting gradually better. Now, whether that's the additional member of staff on his coaching team, or I also think there's an issue which we've seen with other older players such as Djokovic, where they can't do so many long points, so they have to look for other advantages. And I do think at last, we remember all the issues he had, particularly on the clay last year with his serve. That does look to be one element of the game that is on it. But as I said, we have got tougher assignments to come. He won today in straight sets against Giron. Giron, I think, is about number 66 in the world. So, you know, as we know, he's got bigger assignments to come. By the way, hello, Kathy. Hello, G. Nice to have you in. Liam, thank you for the kind words. And all of you out there, by the way, and all of you, obviously, you know, pretty pleased to see, you know, one of the all-time greats back on court at Grand Slam tennis today. Regarding his tougher assignments, I think many of us were expecting Rafa to be playing in the next round against Thanasi Kokkinakis. But sadly, for his point of view and from his fans' point of view, he lost today in straight sets. I have to say, I was quite shocked. Tell me what you think about it in the chat. I was shocked to see this. I actually didn't watch the match. I have had to get some sleep at some point. I managed to watch 2 matches before sleeping at around about 6, 7 o'clock this morning, and then managed to watch a couple more later on in the day, and we'll get to those in a minute. So I didn't watch Kokkinakis, but what I did see is obviously this tweet where he said, pretty flat after that. Hurts because I couldn't get going today. Thank you for the support over the last couple of weeks. It's been incredible. And obviously he's referring to the fact that he won in the warm-up tournament And I am going to come to the warm-up tournament debate, actually, if you like, at the end of the pod. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. Because I do think that can affect players, and I think perhaps it affected him today. Yeah, he looked limp. Thanks, Liam. And I think he clearly says that. He says he'll be back next year and we'll try better. But it must be really devastating for him, having had all those injuries and all those kind of highs and lows. And I remember the Aussie Open last year where he played really well at times. And I thought he would win today, but he lost to number 126 in the world, a German by the name of Hanfmann. And yeah, tell me what you think about that. Hi, Michael. Nice to see you. Thanks very much. Some of you are less shocked than me. I have to say, I thought Kokkinakis would win, and I thought he would actually pose a really tough match for Rafa. It was probably going to be on at night time, and there's a lot of comments from some of the players about the conditions in the day and in the evening. I was getting all ready for a Kokkinakis round 2, 4 or 5 setter, where we would obviously see how Rafa could potentially be in those sort of conditions. But as it is, he's got to play the German number 126. And yeah, I'm a bit flat. But I do think playing on a Saturday in a final and all the emotion as well as the physical elements with that, especially for someone like Kokkinakis playing in front of his home crowd, I wonder if that is a draining effect. But I want to come on to that at the end of this Silk report rather than right now. Right now, I want to focus on players and I want to focus on matches. So the next player on the horizon, I think that I want to talk about, because it's been a pretty busy day today with 128 players in action. And one of those players is friend of the pod, Aslan Karatsev, who managed to win against the Spaniard Munir in 5 unbelievable sets. I say unbelievable. So many breaks of serve, so many twists and turns. Despite all of that, I always felt that Karatsev was going to win. I don't know how you felt about that. I mean, he went 2 sets to 1 down, and he's kind of on the ropes. But what I felt watching it is that his ceiling was way beyond Munir. Munir was doing really well with his defense, no doubt about it. But Karatsev's high was way above anything that Munir could do. And when he was on form, he was winning short points. He was playing really well with some unbelievable winners. But we've got to talk about the more than a century, 107 unforced errors. I counted, I think, 29 in the 4th set, I believe it was. Or no, it might be in the 3rd set. Apologies. 107 unforced errors. Let me know in the chat. I'm sure Michael might want to have a stat to pull out from his sleeve regarding the most unforced errors in a 5-set match at a slam. Aslan's legs can handle long matches, though. Yeah, they do. And he didn't look out of steam at any point. I mean, even at the end of that 3rd set, going in 2 sets to 1 down. But I just always felt that it was kind of on Aslan's racket if he wanted to, in a way. And I even felt a couple of times that there was a couple of lame moments with him where he sort of stuck out a racket. And I thought, come on, Aslan, pick it up. And but the worst one, so 107 unforced errors. But I want to pick out one. Yeah, thank you for my pronunciation. Yeah, Munar. Jaime Munar from Spain. Thanks. Yeah, thanks very much. I want to pick out one particular error. Amongst the 107, there's one that sticks in my head, and I think it was midway through the 4th set when he was a double breakup, and it's on his racket, and he's right on top of the net. The ball bounces. He's got so much time to compose himself. He could pretty much stick it anywhere in the court, and he's won the point. And he somehow sticks it in the tram line, and I just don't know how he managed to lose that point. And there was quite a few points today I didn't quite know. And yeah, and of course, again, Fatima, great point. And that is something we're going to come to. We've already mentioned it with Kokkinakis. We've already mentioned it now with Karatsev, who both played in finals on Saturday. Nadal, by the way, finished his warm-up, if you like, a week before in terms of competitive action. So we are seeing a pattern there. Going to come to that at the end. I really want to touch on that at the end. But one more thing regarding Aslan that I do want to mention, and we're going to focus in a bit maybe on that picture there. The outfit. I don't know. I can't get used to it. I prefer humble Aslan. I prefer the white and the grey and that kind of outfit and the no sponsor. He's obviously managed to get a sponsor after, a pretty incredible 2021. And as a result, he's got a sort of a flashier outfit, and I'm not sure if it suits him or his game. Let me know what you think in the chat. Can Aslan go deep? Thanks for the question there, Snehil, sorry. Can he go deep? Yeah, I mean, it's not a great start, let's say, in terms of where he was at today. And I think he's got a tough draw. He's got Mackenzie McDonald in the next round. That won't be easy. If he gets through that, he's got other tougher assignments ahead. He's got McDonald in the next round, Gene. So that's not a gimme. And playing 5 sets today won't necessarily help him, especially after a fairly grueling week the week before, where he did hit some incredible highs, especially against Andy Murray in the final. But I don't think that's the ideal build-up, if I'm honest. So he will play McDonald, and then if he comes through that, he will play a certain Polish player by the name of Hurkacz. Now, Hurkacz won today in 4 sets. Wasn't a convincing display, I would say. Wasn't convincing, but he won, and that's the most important thing. I couldn't watch all of this match. I dipped in basically towards the end of the 3rd set as it was starting to look kind of exciting. As Gerasimov or Gerasimov, depending on how you pronounce it, was looking pretty good towards the end of that 3rd set. Managed to squeeze the tie break. Then obviously goes into a 4th set. And at this stage, this is, if you want to win slams, if you like, there are occasions where you will see players that drop sets early on, but I'm not sure nowadays, these guys that are winning tournaments, and we saw Medvedev steamroller all the way pretty much to the final last year in the US Open. Do players like Dominic Thiem in 2020 when he won the US Open? We know the big three, they just steamroller through the first week. Do they regularly drop sets in the first or second round nowadays? Maybe in yesteryear. I'm not sure they do. And I don't think this bodes well for Hurkacz either. Anyway, Hurkacz and Karatsev on a collision course. And what we've got here, by the way, is the moment of the match for Hurkacz. He's got his second break point, and he does an incredible diving volley. Check it out if you get the chance, because it was the moment of the match. And it was also, ironically, it was also on the most important point of the match, because his break point in that business end of the 4th set, and it basically set up the victory. And it was an incredible one. I've seen him tweeting about it today as well. And as you can see from this image, I mean, it's certainly the image of day one. And he's kind of Boris Becker-like as he's diving across the court. He will play Manarino in the next round before potentially playing against Karatsev. And I am looking ahead, but the winner of that would then potentially play Rafa Nadal. Quite a bit of tennis to play before then, and who knows what may well happen, but that will be a tasty encounter. Let me know in the chat, am I getting too far ahead of myself? Do you think that Rafa's basically guaranteed to get to the 4th round? He could potentially play Khachanov, who also won today in round 3. Will Hurkacz or Karatsev, which one of those two do you expect to get there? And also, which one of those two, thank you very much, Midfield Maestro, which one of those two do you think is A, most likely to get there, Hurkacz or Karatsev? And can either of those prevent Rafa Nadal making the quarterfinals or further at, I think it will be, it must be about 10 slams in a row now that Rafa has always got. Whenever he's played at a slam, he's always got to the quarterfinal. The last time, I think, was Wimbledon 2017, when he went out, I think, to Rosal, was it, in round 2, round 3? It's been a long time since Rafa Nadal had an early exit. Will we see one at this Australian Open? I'm not so sure. I think things are looking good for the Spaniard. But let's not dwell on him, because there's plenty of other people to talk about, having spoke about those guys. Let's move on to the women. Coco Gauff today. Arguably the biggest story from day one is her defeat. A shock. I'm shocked by it. I thought, like many of us did, I think both JG and Ben at various points in the last week or two have gone big on Coco Gauff. I thought this was possibly going to be her best slam. Thank you very much. Happy New Year as well to you out there listening and watching. Yeah, I thought this was going to be the slam that potentially was where Coco Gauff was going to go deepest. I think she's had a quarterfinal at Roland Garros last year, albeit I don't see clay being her best surface right now, but who knows how it'll go. We've seen her reach the 4th round at 4 tournaments already, I think twice at Wimbledon and 2 others. So, she's starting to build a pedigree. So I just did not see this coming. Another one, by the way, who also played quite late in terms of the before Australian Open. She was in a semi-final, I believe, on Friday in Adelaide 2. She had a couple of 3-set matches last week as well. She played in a tournament the week before. So again, and she mentioned it in her post-match press conference. So yeah, just really, really flat. But let's talk about her opponent, Wang, doing it again. Don't forget, it's Wang who shocked Serena Williams. And when she played Serena Williams in 2020, I think her performance that day was really top. I couldn't watch this match today. I watched about maybe 2 games actually in the second set. I think Coco Gauff was losing 5-love and was looking like, which is where you can see Jose Mercado at this point. It looked like she was going to be bageled. Fortunately, she managed to squeeze out a couple of games in that final set. But yeah, Wang got 54% first serve in. Excuse me. 54% first serve in. That's not, great, which probably doesn't do too well on Coco Gauff. I watched her press conference afterwards. I think that was maybe the most interesting press conference of the day. She spoke about her confidence. She spoke about the unforced errors. I think she spoke about tightness as well. Unusual, perhaps. She's now obviously she's been in a dozen or so slams before, but she mentioned how tight she was feeling. She mentioned about the court speed, which is also something I want to come to at the end as well. Yeah, where do we go from here? I think we see it with young players. We saw that breakthrough Wimbledon in 2019, which really excited so many people. We followed her closely. She's had a couple of tough draws. I remember her losing to Osaka at least once in New York. So, yeah, thanks, Michael. Yes, so many unforced errors, and she highlighted that afterwards. We've got this thing with young players, and I'm a bit worried about Raducanu as well. We'll probably touch on her a little bit later, or perhaps tomorrow. Obviously, she's in action. And the thing is, with the women's so stacked now, women's tennis, there's no chance really for some of these players to feel their way in. We spoke about some of the men's players perhaps feeling their way into a tournament and maybe throwing in a dodgy performance, but still managing to progress because we've got the top 5 or 6 players that I do think are on another level, and then we've got even the next 5 or 6 players are on a particularly good level, if you like. And I think it's probably about number 10, number 11 in the world on the men's side where we do then see a drop. Whereas the women's, I mean, we've got players like Coco Gauff, who I think was seeded number 18. But if Coco Gauff was in the final of the Australian Open, doesn't surprise you. If Coco Gauff goes out in the first round, yeah, it does surprise you. But you know that she's got a tough draw, and I think she may. Forget who. Let me know in the chat who she was due to play. I think in the 4th round, it may have been Ashley. No, I think Badosa was on her radar for the 4th round. So that's the thing with the women's draw. There's 20 players that could possibly get to the final, and there's 20 players that could go out in the first round, as we saw with Coco Gauff today, and we also saw Badosa. By the way, a very impressive win for Badosa today. 6-4, 6-love, or was it 6-love, 6-4 that she won? Looking good. But there is one problem with Badosa, is that she seemed to have a leg injury. I haven't heard anything post-match regarding Badosa, but that will be a concern. But the comfort with which she won what was a particularly tricky opening round, I think, should hold her in good stead. Thanks, Gene. Yeah, it was potentially Badosa in the 4th. Let me know what you think what do you think about the women's tennis on day one? I think it's been a pretty good day. It's been quite exciting. I do think that overall today, perhaps the Karatsev match on the men's side was the most dramatic, if not the most highest level. But we haven't had a sensational day like we had kind of 14 sensational days in New York last year on the men's and the women's side. So I don't think we quite hit those heights just yet, but it's just feeling their way in, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I think before we finish in terms of the matches today, I do want to touch on the return of somebody that we've all been looking forward to, and that is Naomi Osaka. Great to have her back today. Really pleased to see her back, and it's a nice tweet there. Lots of color. Nice to be back. I tell you what, it's great to have her back. 6-3, 6-3 today. She won against the Colombian Camila Osorio. Hope you like my Spanish pronunciation there. So, yeah, that was a great win. I did feel with Osorio that perhaps maybe not overawed, because actually there was a few bamoses and come-ons from her at various points. Thanks for the super chat there, Tati Champ. Yeah, I did think that that she wasn't overawed, and I think that she still believed, even at times when she was a breakdown. But when she came off the court afterwards, Osario, there was still quite a lot of smiles, and I think she was really pleased to be there. And that's great. I understand that, but I probably would have liked a bit more disappointment. I mean, you have just lost in the first round, albeit against arguably a legend of the sport. But anyway, regarding Osaka, there was a funny moment, by the way, with a kind of an example of a superstition that she had. I don't know if you all saw that with the Melbourne sign. I think she wanted to step over it, but at one point she stepped on it. She then stepped back and then stepped over it again. So many funny moments, and it's just great to have her back, and seemingly, you know, in a good moment, let's say, and long may that continue. And it was a convincing win, I would say. And what more can you do? Straight set, 6-3, 6-3. Really pleased to have her back. And let me know if you think that she can go all the way. I mean, she is the defending champion, which actually, given what's happened in the last 12 months regarding Naomi Osaka, it's sometimes it's easy to forget. And I forget, yes, she won it last year, and she won it incredibly. Obviously, with beating Muguruza, I think it was in the third round, saving match points. But you know, at that point, we thought, here we go. This is a world number one in the making. And we were kind of looking at Ash Barty as someone who might well lose that position. But it was ultimately Ash Barty who came strong. When are Osaka and Barty? They're on different sides of the draw. So I guess they are potentially in the final, if I'm right in understanding that. But the women's draw is so unpredictable, so difficult to predict. And yeah, it's exciting. And great to have Osaka back. I want to finish, though, today by clearing up any other business, by the way. And if there's any players that you want to talk about who I haven't mentioned thus far, please let me know in the chat. But I want to come to a few other bits and pieces. First of all, we've got the sad news that Ons Jabeur has pulled out. We saw that back injury that she got last week in a warm-up tournament. Again, warm-up tournament alert, and I'm going to address this point. Pretty much every player I've mentioned so far, I've mentioned the warm-up tournaments. I am going to address that and really want to talk about it. But so she picked up this back injury. I have to say, I thought it was a precautionary measure. I thought that she was kind of posting some nice things, and there were some good vibes coming out from her, that I thought it was going to be okay. Yeah, I have discussed Kokinakis 12 Travel 21. And be sure to check that out, obviously, when you get the chance. But yeah, Ons Jabeur, I'm sad because, again, who knows? This could have been a great tournament for her, but I'll read out the statement anyway. Sadly, I had to withdraw from my first round of the Australian Open today. That obviously means her opponent, which is Irina Bara, Irina Bara is the lucky loser who will replace Ons Jabeur, because Ons Jabeur was scheduled to play tomorrow. So there will be no walkover under the rules of Grand Slam tennis, that because she did so before the tournament began. Irina Bara, as a lucky loser, will step in, see how she gets on tomorrow. Anyway, let's get to this tweet. I'm kind of going all over the show. Sadly, I had to withdraw from my first round of the Australian Open today. I've injured my back in Sydney last week. I tried everything to be ready and thought I could have recovered in time to play here. Unfortunately, the pain is still very present, and playing in such conditions could jeopardize my whole season. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with a back injury. I mean, you've got to take care with this. This is not something you can play through. This is something that really could cause a lot of problems. So probably best to take care with something like this. So now she's going to rest and treat myself and hopefully come back as soon as possible. Thanks to all my fans for all their help and support. Hoping to be 100% for the next one. Yeah, so hopefully see you back on a court soon. I don't know what's on her diary, but I think really needs to be super cautious, and if necessary, just wait for that clay court season and hopefully be fit and firing for that. And then obviously the French Open. Okay, coming to, you saw me obviously already click on that slightly there. Coming to the next point in any other business I want to address is the court speed. We've heard a lot of people talking about it. Rafa Nadal mentioned it before the tournament began, talking about particularly how fast it is. I think perhaps maybe more so in the daytime. Coco Gauff has highlighted it too. Does seem to be a thing this year. Who do you think the court speed will favor? You would think big servers, obviously. Are there other players that you expect to benefit from the court speed? We've obviously got some aces here. Bublik with 30 aces on day one. That's pretty impressive. Lopez with 26. I think Lopez went out today, right, to John Millman. So he will remain on 26. Opelka, unsurprisingly, on the leaderboard there with 23. I expect him to stay in the competition for a couple more rounds. So I'm sure we'll see him shoot up that leaderboard as well. But yeah, so we've got quite a few aces. I touched on it with Rafa, with his 7 aces, 2 more than at the same stage last year. So I do think there is a court speed. Karatsev should be happy with faster courts. Thank you for that. Snehil, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Apologies if not. Be sure to correct me somehow in the chat. So yeah, fast courts will help Hurkacz and Zverev, obviously, definitely. I think Zverev, Berrettini with the big serve, of course. But I think Zverev as well, who, by the way, is my tip for the tournament. Regarding that, I'm actually a little surprised at how many people have got Medvedev as their overwhelming favorite. I actually don't see it that way. I see Medvedev getting to the final, and I do see Zverev making the final. But I understand people picking Medvedev. He's obviously got the monkey off his back regarding a Grand Slam. But given the way Zverev dismantled Medvedev in the ATP Tour finals, albeit that's 3 months ago and indoors, I do see this as being Zverev's time. Let me know what you think about that. Thank you again for another super chat there. Yeah, let me know what you think about that in the chat. Am I being misled by Zverev? I saw him play today as well. I think he looked good. I think the days of Zverev dropping careless sets early on in slams that we've seen, or even early exits in slams, I do think that's over. I do think with the departure today, that's probably someone we should touch on. Lloyd Harris has gone out today, so that helps. I think Zverev, I'm not sure if it was the second or the third round. I think third round they were due to meet. Zverev will play Millman in the second round. Home favorite. We all remember the Millman-Federer match from 2 years ago. 5th set, super tiebreak, I think it was, including some match points. Can Millman reach those heights again? That's 2 years ago. And I think when you're in your 30s, can someone tell me in the chat how old Millman is? That would be amazing. Once you're in your 30s, I do think that 2 years is a long time, and especially with the pandemic adding on to that. So I do see Zverev coming through that. Might drop a set, and hopefully that'll be a nighttime match. But yeah, regarding Zverev today, it was touch and go for him in the first set with the tie break. But I always felt Zverev was, I think his opponent, the German who he was playing today, was not quite, he was hanging in there throughout, let's say that. And he was having to save break points and set points, managing to get to the tie break. But yeah, it's court speed. We're going to have a look at some of the stats as well regarding the women's court speed, or at least their service speed here. Naomi Osaka, 193 kilometers an hour first serve. Badosa, Gauff, obviously, who's out. Madison Keys, 189. I think she went through today as well. So, yeah, perhaps court speed on the women's side will favor players like Osaka, not just in terms of her serve, because she can also hit a pretty mean, ground stroke too. So that's how I see it. Any players, by the way, because this is speak up now or forever hold your peace. Any players that I haven't mentioned that you would like me to come across. I didn't manage to watch every match today. I don't even have every single result in my memory back. But please, if there's your favorite player and I haven't mentioned your favorite player, mention them in the short chats. Monfils, thank you, Snail. Yeah. Monfils, I think the draws open up for him. And he won in straight sets. And we know how he was in the week before. And he's, 17th seed, I think. But with Djokovic's departure, I'm not sure if you are all aware, but Mr. Djokovic is not playing the Australian Open this year. And there's about 12 days worth of podcasts. Be sure to go back to the 8-hour epic from about 10 days ago to catch up on all of that. But yeah, the draw has opened up for Monfils. That section with obviously with the lucky loser who lost, I think, to how do you say his name? Krizmanovic, is it? He lost to obviously going through. That draw now is really opened up, and the biggest beneficiary is is for me, it's Monfils. It's there. How he can deal with that pressure? Well, he seemed to deal with it quite well today. I think I can see him definitely making the fourth round. I think he would probably get to, Liam, I will actually. That's a great one. I have to definitely address that. I will in a second. I can see Monfils making the quarters where I think he would probably meet Berrettini or Sinner. I have Sinner getting that far because I actually have him getting to my semi-finals. So that's my Monfils thing. I actually didn't watch him today, but it's an impressive straight set win. Great and great to see. I think we're all pleased to see that. Cam Norrie. Yeah, thanks, Liam. I think Ben and JG were divided on their preview. I'm trying to recall from my memory bank. But I think they one had Cam Norrie going through and one had him going out. I had Cam Norrie going out. I had him going out for a few reasons. Korda, his opponent, that's pretty much as hard as it gets, I think, as a first-round opponent. And pretty much, in my opinion, probably the best now that Alcaraz is seeded, by the way, who was very impressive today. And Alcaraz's build-up to the tournament has also been very interesting. Decided to play no tennis, and you could see it. He was looking lean and mean and strong. If you can possibly look lean and strong at the same time, boy, did he look good. And I have him getting to the semi-finals. So anyway, coming back to Cam Norrie, Korda, worst possible opponent you could possibly get, and especially in the form that Cam Norrie is in, losing all of his matches, exactly, Gene, losing all of his matches at the ATP Cup, which, by the way, I don't think is the ideal build-up either. So I did want, but what surprised me though, I had Korda going through and having a good year. Thanks, Liam. Yeah, I agree. What surprised me, though, was the manner of the defeat. I mean, there was a bagel in there, and it was straight sets. I had Norrie and Korda going 4 or 5 sets, but ultimately Korda pulling through. He dismantled him, and that's a bit worrying regarding the year ahead. And I think many of us, and me included, maybe did think that the last year was Corey's best year and ceiling as well. Winning Indian Wells, getting to third and fourth rounds consistently at slams and doing well elsewhere, getting to ATP 250 finals, I think. So, but I'm worried about him, if I'm honest. I don't see him reaching the heights of last year. Let me know what you think in the chat. Okay. I think now it's time to talk about final point in my any other business. It's basically to talk about this preparation for the Australian Open. And it's something that I've been thinking about a lot in recent years. I don't think, first of all, ATP Cup is an ideal prep for the Australian Open. I think for the I think it's a fun tournament for 2 or 3 days because there is no tennis. And then suddenly when the other tournaments get going, you're starting to watch Rafa's return in the ATP 250. You're starting to watch Adelaide 1. And suddenly by the time you get into the semi-finals of the ATP Cup, me certainly, I'm starting to watch the other tournaments. And so that's the first thing. But secondly, I don't think it's an ideal preparation. I think the gap between that finishing and if you go out, if you're in, if you're, someone like Basilashvili as a Georgian, or if you're in another team, if you like, or represent another country and you go out early, or it's not ideal. You might get 3 matches. I guess that's the flip side of the coin. But personally, I think we've seen it from Rafa's preparation and from other players' preparation as well. We had the 2 best Spanish players that were not playing for Spain, basically, Nadal and Alcaraz. So, I mean, I know Alcaraz's ranking is probably a bit lower than Bautista Agut and Carreño Busta, but I think you know what I mean. So I don't think it's good preparation. I personally would like to see the Australian Open put back a couple of weeks. I think February last year was ideal. Could be beginning of February. I think that way we could begin the new year. Personally, I'd like to see the ATP Cup start on the 2nd of January, just because I think I need the 1st of January to recover from the rigors of the night before. And I don't mean sporting rigors. I mean going out rigors. So, but I think that would be great. I think we're excited to see the ATP Cup. Let it have its breathing space for a week. Let the players play. They'll either get 3 or 5 matches, I guess, depending on where they're at. And then you've got probably 2 to 3 weeks of warm-up tournaments, perhaps. Players can pick and choose. What you've got, though, we saw it last year. Dan Evans, I think he won an ATP 250 on the eve of the tournament. And I thought, wow, Dan Evans. We've seen a lot of good things from him. He's due to have a good Australian Open. Boom, he goes out in round one. But I think we've seen it even in starker contrast this year. Rafa Nadal plays 3 warm-up matches, so to speak, in the ATP 250, has a week of practice, goes in and is looking pretty good, certainly considering the last 6 months. Conversely, you've got other players like Karatsev, who played in a warm-up tournament all the way until Saturday, so 2 days ago, and yeah, we're struggling today. Now, whether that's because of that, I don't know, but we can certainly look at other players. Coco Gauff mentioned it in her pre-match press conference. Who else am I missing? I had sort of 2 or 3 players on my list that were just not on it. And they all went deep. They all went deep. You know, Gauff was playing in Adelaide too on the Friday in the semi-final. She had 2 3-set matches last week. She mentioned it at a press conference. Not ideal preparation. Did keys no harm. That's a great point. You know, I mean, you can come up high, definitely give up examples. But let's say we have 6 or 7 players that are going deep at tournaments. Kokkinakis, that's the best example. Thank you. I think it's an emotional and a physical toll that is to be taken on getting all the way, particularly to a final, particularly on a Saturday, for example, night. And then you're back on court 36 hours later on a Monday hot lunchtime in Melbourne, although it wasn't super hot today, but still, I don't think that's ideal, especially if you've gone deep in another tournament as well. Now, we can probably look at 6 or 8 players that all went deep this weekend, and we can probably think of 3 or 4 that did okay. As you said, Keys didn't do her any harm, but it did do those other players harm that I already highlighted. That's too many. If you've got 50% of the players going deep, I mean, the fact that they've gone deep immediately before suggests they're in good form, suggests that hard courts are okay for them, suggests that Australia and the conditions there, and especially if they were playing in Melbourne, although I think Melbourne probably finished a week ago, all of this is not bad. But if you've got players that are going deep, they should be going past the first round at the Australian Open, put it that way. I think there's, and they're also highlighting it afterwards, that the players are saying themselves. So, and Coco Gauff, by the way, said that she won't be doing that again. And I completely understand it. I actually think the ideal prep for a Grand Slam is probably to play something like Wednesday to Wednesday the week before. You would never get it because scheduling a final of an ATP 250 on a Wednesday or even a Thursday probably just doesn't work in terms of selling tickets. You obviously want to have it on a weekend. They would ideally have it on the Sunday, but no one wants to play on the Sunday. So they have it on a Saturday. But I think in an ideal world, which is, Osaka was playing last week, pulls out on Wednesday, boom, hits the ground running today. I think it's time to breathe, no? I've barely slept. And I've tried to watch as much tennis as I could. 36 minutes in. I wasn't expecting it to be so long, and who knows how it'll be at crazier days. Barty, John comments, what do you want to know, Troy, exactly? I mean, do I think that she's going to win it? I do have her winning the tournament, actually, but that's me getting a bit of the boring Ben disease, I think, because I just wasn't sure with the women, and because of my lack of certainty and my lack of conviction I got doubts about everyone on the women's side, to be honest with you, but I've also got conviction, if you like, or got some confidence about 20 players. I think the only sort of one, if you like, among the seeds who I'm a bit worried about is probably Raducanu, given her form in the build-up and obviously getting COVID, and that sort of seemed to put her off a bit, and she pulled out, I think, of one warm-up tournament, or I think it was before. So, yeah, I'm a bit worried about her. But in general, full speed ahead. But the thing is with Barty, she could go out as early as round 3, or she could win the whole thing. And that's where women's tennis is at right now. And long may it continue. But I think it's time to breathe. It's time to relax. It's time to get a couple of hours sleep for some of us, especially those of us in Europe. Is this the first GTL Steam without either Ben or JG? I believe so. There may have been a moment or two where I had the airwaves to myself as they got cut out midstream during a match, but I think this is certainly thanks, Michael. I love how Michael, by the way, who's in the US, is aware of EastEnders. I don't know if you ever spent any time in the UK, Michael, but I love that. Yeah, this is the posh version of GTL. By the way, I don't think my accent's particularly posh, but perhaps compared to the wide boys of Ben and JG, who spend their time in the Queen Vic, Perhaps that's where that comes from. But thanks for the comment all the same. The Silk Report, yeah, Jared, thank you. Gonzalez there, 12 trying. John has bought the channel too. What does that say? Sorry, I missed that. Bought the channel after his recent success. Did you not hear? Yeah, I'm taking over. I'm becoming a media mogul, Liam. Next step, I'll be buying up other channels soon. So watch this space. But Liam, I might need to borrow some cash, mate. Okay, now though, thank you for all your questions. I'm sure I couldn't address all of them. But I will be doing so as much as I possibly can. What's unbelievable is I've managed to talk for 39 minutes, even though I don't think this was the craziest day in Grand Slam history. So I'll try and keep it briefer in the future. I hope I touched on many of the key points from today. But it's great to be talking about tennis again. Thank you very much for joining, and speak to you soon.